See your family. Peace and love. Peace and love. Bless to all and each and every one of you. I got to get ready to go to work, but I'm gonna drop this quick little video. I was gonna go live, but this is gonna drop a quick video. I mean, my whole purpose is to keep you mindful. Look at that gray hair coming in there. Not bad for 49. But anyway, I'm gonna drop you on a serious note. Let me drop y'all a quick jewel real quick if that's the way that you want to perceive it. But let's talk about these movements. Let's talk about these movements. Let's talk about all of these quote unquote so-called black movements or black empowerment movements. I was sitting out here, man, and contemplating things as I always do in the morning time. I try to commune with nature. I try to feel all of the energies that are within me as well as around me, you know what I'm saying, to kind of give me, just that what I need to get through the day. And that includes intuition and intellect. And I was just sitting back, man, and I was just thinking, like, wow, every movement that the so-called black community has had has been a movement that has been more or less pushed upon us as a people. I mean, let's think about it, man. All these movements just came from out of nowhere. I mean, really, they just come from out of nowhere. Even when we go back and look at the civil rights movement, which is the first quote unquote Negro quote black movement that is very significant in our so-called history. Even that movement, man, just came from out of nowhere. Martin Luther King just came from out of nowhere. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, wow, you know, I honestly haven't heard anybody on street corners or whatnot pushing these movements until they just boom, all of a sudden appear. So let's start with the with the civil rights movement, and let's fast forward to the movements that we have today, the Black Lives movements, the not giving a fuck, the not fucking around, I'm sorry, the not fucking around coalition. These movements just come from out of nowhere. It's just like they manifest from out of nowhere. And we as a people, we as nations of people, tribes of people, we got to wake up to this, man, because it's really getting to the point that it's just like, it's crazy. They're playing with our intellect, they're playing with our emotions. And that's what been fueling these movements. You know what I'm saying? They depending upon our our lack of, what's the word? Reasoning. They're dependent on our lack of reasoning. So they're able to push these type of groups upon you, and as well as support these groups and telling you to support these groups. And if you don't support these groups, then you don't deserve any type of justice. You don't deserve any type of freedom. But the fact of the matter is that these groups are not pushing for your justice, and they're not pushing for your freedom, because they're pushing for the justice and the freedoms of misnomers. And what I mean by that, black and African Americans are not really recognized by anybody's laws. We're talking about worldwide. They're not recognized by anybody's laws because they're not recognized as a nation of people. Black is not a nation of people. African American is not a nation or a recognized nation of people. These are misnomers who have no origin or no kind of chronological, genealogical, historical connection to anything except for being property of the United States government incorporated. Who, by the way, are the ones that are backing these different groups, these different movements. When you look at the civil rights movement, CIA, FBI, United States government, or better known as the Jesuit order. Let's go back to the feminist groups when so-called black women were kicking their husbands out of their houses because they were getting government assistance by way of welfare. This was the Women's Live movement, which a lot of sisters gravitated towards, but it wasn't for the sisters, it was for the empowerment of the so-called Caucasian, or so-called white woman, or the Caucasian woman, because she was being oppressed by her own men. So that movement was to liberate them. It was only designed for the so-called black woman is by way of removing the man from the household, therefore removing the so-called black family structure. Yeah, that was CIA, that was FBI, that was United States government incorporated, funded movement. For the sole purpose of weakening the so-called black family structure. The civil rights movement, also, if you do some research, you will see that it was funded by the CIA and the FBI, better known as the Jesuit order. Again, for the infiltration, the manipulation of the so-called black community, to keep us docile, to keep us turning the other cheek, to keep us just taking the abuse and just singing hymns and waiting for this Caucasian savior to come down and save us. So we march, we sung, we pray, we still slaves. That's just the nature of it all. It's the actuality of it all. Then we come, fast forward, let's go to the Black Lives Movement. Black Lives Movement, funded by the CIA, the FBI, was more for the liberation of homosexuality, lesbianism, and they're pushing for pedophilia to be recognized as a sexuality. See, it had nothing to do with copper-colored people. Nothing at all. It was for people who indulge into unnatural sexual deviance to have the ability and the right to exercise and act out these sexual deviant natures, unnatural natures. That's what that movement was pushed for. Now, let's get down to that movement that a lot of y'all people out here supporting blindly, and that's that Not Fucking Around coalition. Yeah. Bet you if we do some digging, we'll find out that they're CIA and FBI. And again, it is for the manipulation of the so-called black community. Let's think about it. Let's really look at this. This organization is able to have, they say, 1,000 people, 1,000 copper-colored people walking around with guns. Now, how in the hell does the police authority know that these guns are legally registered? How would they know this beforehand? I mean, are these people submitting their gun permits prior to them going out to march? We're talking about 1,000 of them now. Are they doing that? Because we know We pull a gun out in the neighborhoods. In some of these neighborhoods, these reservations that they have for the copper colored Indians, which we call the hoods and the ghettos and, you know what I'm saying, the trap and all that. You know what I'm saying? We pull out a gun out there, hey, it better be legit. It better be registered. They're monitoring us like that. So how is it that these thousands of people that keep showing up are able to just show up and carry arms without any interference, without any questions at all? I mean, let's face it, we know that the KKK is able to do that because half of them are part of the police force. Half of them are in the government. So we know that they're pretty much able to carry on with this type of behavior. But we've always been policed. Always. Hell, the laws themselves are designed to govern us, not the foreigners that came over here, but to govern the autonomous indigenous American Indians. Always been put in place to govern us. So how is it that 1,000 of these people can come together armed? There's no police. I have not seen any scenes or shots of police standing by just in case something pop off. Hell, even the National Guard's been called in on protesters. But we see no National Guard when it comes down to these armed protesters. We see no policing in these protestings. And that's odd. That's odd to say the least. You know, that's very odd to say the least. So I want y'all to really examine this. They go out, they're protesting, they're armed, and any so-called black person with a gun is considered dangerous, period. He's armed and dangerous. So what changed with this group? I'll tell you what changed with this group. This group is a PSYOP. This group is put in place by the CIA and the FBI. And I think that their sole purpose is to create, generate, manipulate us into a race war. And it ain't just for the copper colored people, it's for the Caucasian people. Because you know, once you back certain people into a corner or make them feel threatened, they're gonna lash out. They're gonna lash out. And I'm wondering, where are the not give a fuck correlation gonna be when Caucasians begin to say, you know, they ain't marching on ours, we not having that, and they start meeting them at the front. They start meeting them on the front line. I wonder what's gonna happen then. People, stop falling for these things. You should be more mindful than that. You should know that any group that just shows up out of nowhere, first of all, you should know that any group that's promoting the words black or African American, they're not supporting you. They're not supporting you. Any group that continues to holler black and African American, knowing or should know, if they got their research in, they should know that these misnomers, under these misnomers, it don't matter how much you ride, it doesn't matter how much you march, sing, pray, carry guns, it doesn't fucking matter. If you're promoting the misnomers or the property names that were given to you as people, then what are you really supporting? Because you're not supporting the autonomous indigenous American, Nijis. You're not. Those are nations. the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, the Anayawiya, the Seminoles, the Taínos. I can go on and on. These are nations, and nobody is standing up and saying that the Cherokee lives matter, the Seminole lives matter, the Indians in New Orleans, they matter, the Indians that are in North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, all the way up into the New Yorks and Baltimore and all. I mean, the American Neji, they're not promoting those names. And there's a reason why they're not promoting those names, because they're not paid to promote those names. They're paid to keep you thinking black. They're paid to keep you thinking African American. Because if you continue to think that you are these things, then you continue to see yourself coming off slave ships. Therefore, you continue to be slave minded. That's what it all boils down to. Not giving a fuck correlation. Black Lives Matter, the Civil Rights Movement, Women's Lib Movement, all of it was government funded. All of it is government funded. And all of it is designed to keep you in the dark as to who you really are on these lands. Because then you can actually stand up and have an actual voice for your independence, an actual voice for your freedom. You can come to foreigners in your land as the original nations of these lands, and they don't want that. So they keep throwing these diversionary tactics. Every time consciousness comes through, every time people start to gravitate towards the truth, and they're watching it and they're looking at it because it's all on social media, they know that the reality and the truth is coming out. And every time this happens, they throw in this diversionary tactics. They throw in something that reinforces the fact that you are property. Or you black and you proud. I'm African American and I'm proud. You're proud of being a nobody. And they want you to be proud of being a nobody. So they get not giving a fuck correlation to march here and march there unabated. They give them this opportunity to go into these places unpoliced. But try that shit in your hood. You get gunned down. Try that shit in your hood and you get tear gassed. We seen that with the Black Lives Matter. We seen that with all those protesters. People getting tear gassed. People getting shot in their fucking face with rubber bullets and shit. Unarmed people. So how in the hell is it that these people can come 1,000 guns deep and not get one canister fired in their direction? Not get one rubber bullet shot at them, not even get tased, not even get handcuffed, none of that. And we had people getting hurt, killed, during peaceful, unarmed protests. These people are armed, and they get a pass. Y'all about to wake up. Y'all about to wake up, because the same people that are leading you into war are the same people that you'll fight. And with that, I leave you in peace and love.